Hello everybody, this is Derek. Today's recording date is Monday the 28th of December 2009. Hope everyone is doing magnificent, and today I'm going to be making some 2010 predictions and beyond, not just for the entire year. And one of the key things is the start of 2010 brings us to the halfway point of the current cycle, the 8th cycle of the Mayan calendar, which is that of truth and ethics. At the halfway point, that means that the current cycle overrides the previous one, meaning the consciousness of truth and ethics will override that of the power cycle, which was the previous one. And I think it happens around the 20th of December, if of course the final date is that of December the 21st, 2012. The date could be October 28th, 2011 for when the calendar ends, as Dr. Kalaman, an author of the Mayan calendar works, talks about that as the end date. It could even be another date. Maybe it's March 7th, 2012, and maybe it'll be April 10th, 2013. I really don't know yet. I made a video earlier this year, or just a few weeks ago, how I'm expecting to find out a more accurate end date by the end of 2010. So let's go through some predictions. A lot of these predictions will just span the end of this cycle, so whether it be to the early part of 2012, basically these predictions should occur until about 240 days before the Mayan calendar ends. And the first one is that of the current cycle, truth and ethics. This should just come in a big power surge, and pretty early on in the decade, as early as January and even February, where a lot of truth movement, more than we have seen over the last 3 or 4 years, to come in a higher degree, a lot more knowledge of ethics. Ethics, of course, being doing the right thing. We look at what's going on in the world. We look at the war going on in Afghanistan. I mean, they have the power to go for war. They could even say they have reason for going to war, but they don't have an ethical stick to stand on. And earlier I was mentioning that not only the powers that be, but everyone in this world, those whom engage in negative activities, are going to feel really, really bad during this time. And the key reason for that is we are in the ethical cycle. People will understand what is ethically right. Doesn't mean they're going to do the correct thing. It means that if they do not, they're going to feel really, really bad. And that's going to be for yourself, myself, and everyone else within the world. One of the key predictions is that of a revolution for change in almost every aspect. I talked about this in the spring, summer of 2009. It didn't end the year at the levels that I was expecting it to, but it was definitely noticeable when you look at, just the YouTube videos that people are talking about. You look at the G20 summit meetings, more protests that are going on. I'm expecting that to continue on. And one of the big reasons is I'm expecting more and more people to wake up to what's going on. I'm not going to say that everyone's going to wake up or they're going to wake up to all of this information, but understanding more and more along the way. Another prediction is the commercial real estate collapse, either 2010, maybe into early 2011. This is brought on because of the way the financial system is working right now. It costs way too much to run these businesses these days, and of course sales are going a heck of a lot lower. People aren't spending, and I'm expecting a lot of these stores to just collapse together in mass. So whether that happens this summer, this fall, or into 2011, time will only tell with that. One of the predictions I've been talking about for a couple years now is the death of the fiat dollars, and that's pretty much every single currency: the American dollar, Canadian, Australian, the euro, the yen, every single one Some will be hit more harsh than others will be. Of course, the Zimbabwe dollar got pummeled earlier this decade, and the United States one is going to most likely have difficult times as their dollars will fall over other currencies. And that's why if they fall more than, say, the euro and the Canadian dollar and the yen and whatnot, what that's going to mean is the import costs are going to be a lot higher than they will be for other countries. But what you should notice within all countries is the price of gold, silver, and key commodities keep going higher. I have this picture up here, silver 1,000 an ounce, and it's been on there for a few months now. And the key thing for that is because of the fall of the dollar, and I think all currencies will notice an increase in the price of gold and that of silver. And then we got to figure out, well, how is the dollar going to die? What type of events is actually going to take it from happening? And some people will call about the conspiracy that it's the powers that be are executing the financial collapse. And if they are executing this financial collapse, then whatever it is that they decide to do is going to be happening. I think the biggest things that will happen in the next little while are going to be unexpected. It's something that you see, it's like, wow, there it is. And we're moving into that halfway point of that Mayan calendar, which means usually big events occur during this time frame. And if that's the case, expect something big to happen. And the big thing is, on the October 28th, 2011 date, if that is the date, we are well past the halfway point of this current cycle. And that halfway point was around November of 2008, which would have been the financial collapse and the stock market collapse, which would make it reasonable why that could be the date. And if not much really happens in the first few months of 2010 going into around the Easter time frame, I will think very highly that the date is either around October 28th of 2011 and maybe even 2013. Moving on, inflation. It's not going to take much of inflation to affect the people right now. It's already difficult for so many people with the job losses where they are at, and if the commercial real estate is falling, which I think it will, the unemployment rate is nowhere near out of hand yet. They say it's 10% right now. U6 numbers, I think 17.2. I'm expecting the U6 numbers to hit well over 30% by the end of this cycle, which is quite large, maybe even much bigger than that, as the dominoes effect means so many different factories will have to close down, and this will eventually bring us towards the barter system to go along with the death of the dollar, that is. As far as inflation, food inflation seems to almost be a gimme. We're already seeing it now. It's so evident, and this is one reason why people are going to be waking up to reality, because they're going to be seeing it firsthand. When you go to the grocery store and you're starting to see the prices increase so fast over a noticeable period of time, it's going to be like, hey, wait a second, this is going up a lot faster. Back in the 1970s when we had the inflation, we had the pay rates or wages going up along with it. Right now it doesn't seem as if that is going to be the case. Big reason for food inflation is because of the crops. A lot less food, less wheat, less corn, less almost everything that we grow. And that causes a heck of a lot of problems, because a lot of the foods that we buy, the canned foods, the packaged goods, these items are not going to be available for the same price that they were before, because supply and demand means if there's less supply and the demand at least stays neutral or even goes up higher, the price skyrockets. And I would expect the same thing there. A lot of the reason for the food shortages is because of the weather effects, and the weather, it's going to get out of control because of the fact that more and more stuff happens in less and less time. We're talking earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, that kind of stuff. I wouldn't even surprise me if maybe in the next couple years that a couple areas are completely gone, We're talking communities, not really states, unless it's a state the size of like Delaware or something, but just little communities, most likely along ocean shores. The top guesses, Philippines maybe, most likely that area of Asia, Southern Asia would get hit. Potentially the Gulf of Mexico might get hit. So if you're living amongst the coastline, I would check to see what you need to do to survive the disasters that happen along the area. How far do you want to be away from the ocean? Do you want to be 10 miles, 15 miles, maybe even 4 miles would be enough? I'm not too sure. But we're like, winds, gusts will get a lot higher, so the snow will get a lot higher. People talk about, oh, this whole global warming is a farce when we have all of this cold and the snow. Well, when Al Gore talks about stuff like the CO2 emissions, yeah, I think that would be a farce, but that does mean that extra intensity along the fact of the weather. That means colder, warmer, much hotter, a lot more snow, a lot less rain. And when you have a heck of a lot more rain or a heck of a lot less rain, that does cause problems for the food shortages. The reason why I think the weather's getting worse is because it's been prophesized for so long, and I can actually see it right now. This kind of stuff has been prophesized as far back to even the Bible, maybe even before then, and we're seeing this happen now. The healthcare system, we have seen in the United States with the healthcare reform moving on. All I can say is you can only eat so much of the McDonald's and the Wendy's and Harvey's and Burger King's and so much of the MSGs that we have in our food. We can only take so much tobacco and alcohol and all of the stuff we are doing to the body without it actually giving in. When we look back at the previous depression, the 1930s, the MSGs just were not there. People actually ate better foods. Sure, they consumed more tobacco back then, and maybe they even consumed more alcohol, which means that it may not be quite as bad as it was back then in the sense, or maybe that's a good reason why the average person's life over the last 60, 70 years has gone higher. But it wouldn't surprise me if there is a mass period where a lot of people are going to be sick during one period of time. Maybe the H1N1 may have something to do with it. Don't know if this is going to be a 2010 or a 2011 prediction. Maybe it might be a combination of both. But if a lot of people get sick at one time, relief efforts are just not going to be there. And you can expect that with the weather, how we had Katrina, the relief efforts were half-assed, I guess, at best. And as more and more of these happen, the relief efforts won't be there. That means hospitals will be massively full. That means you call doctors and there just will not be appointments. Problems amongst the medication field, especially with the commercial real estate falling. And this, to me, is going to be probably the biggest event that may happen in 2010, 2011. Maybe it's a 2011 thing, the biggest event this year is the financial collapse. But that means the key thing is look at your health, do the best you can to stay positive and to eat good foods, eat organic foods. That way you actually have a better chance of not getting as sick. Expect a battle between Eastern and Western medicines. The New Age medicines versus like the pharma. Yeah, the pharma medicines. It's a conflict, to say the least, and this means we're going to find out more of the truth amongst both of the medicines. Myself, what I'm doing personally is I'm trying to wean myself off of RX as much as possible while I add in the New Age medicines as much as possible. Religion and spirituality moving to a huge next level. This means communicating through thoughts, other people towards thoughts, increased amount of channeling, those things where, where you're walking down the street, you think you're going to see somebody around the corner, you think of somebody, then you see it. That type of stuff used to happen every now and again. Well, it's going to happen a heck of a lot more, basically. The government, they're going to decide if they're going to collapse or work within the system. I mean, everything during this period of time of this 2012 shift is all about collapsing the negative energies. And if you're in a negative, fearful, lower frequency type of mode agenda, you're just not going to win, basically. And I said in 2008 I was expecting the order to come, stocks, dollar, then government. Whether the 2008 financial collapse is that first level, we will find out in the future. Maybe the stock market will test 4,000, 5,000, and maybe it will not. Who knows? Because inflation can bring it up a lot higher. But people, of course, are waking up to the paper Ponzi, the revolution that's going on, a problem amongst the healthcare industry. These are the type of things that is going to work towards the government losing their own control. And it's going to be up to them if they want to decide if it wants to collapse or not. And what I mean by that is they need to adjust amongst the new energies, meaning if they stick with the old pharma, stick with wars and stuff like that, it's not going to be very nice for them. Okay, the next few predictions most likely will not happen in 2010. They will most likely be 2011, 2012 predictions. And near the end of the cycle that we're on, the end of the 8th cycle, moving into the 9th one, what I'm going to be noticing is more signs of magic or the gods appearing on the planet. Like I was saying, when you were walking down the street, you think of someone, you're going around the corner, there's that person, and it's going to happen more often. That's what I'm talking about, more and more stuff. Stuff like even telekinesis, even moving stuff with your mind, whatever. A lot of this stuff I expect to actually happen. It seems far-fetched, and maybe it is, and maybe it will not happen. But the big thing is we're moving to a period of conscious co-creating for the next cycle, and the understanding of the law of attraction. And when we understand that law of attraction even more, that means it's a period where we actually figure out what it is. We will know more on how to use it, and that means it's going to be used for both good and for bad. And then some people, we're going to see individual people, it's like, oh my God, this person is that of a God. He or she has done this and that. And when I talk about doing good and bad stuff, I'm talking about good stuff as in like major healing, just a lot of magical great stuff along the way. This to me, I think, is my safest prediction to make that is not so obvious, and that is the world is coming together, like moving towards each other, in the sense that every moment, at least over the last 5,000 years, if not since time has began, consciousness has worked towards working to get to know each other, tell us their story. I mean, that's what it's all about. You want to hear other people's story. You want to tell everybody your story. That's exactly what I expect to happen. Whether the internet shuts down, I don't know. I mean, I would have to say normally with the whole collapse that would be going on, I would say it's an instant yes. But because the world's coming together, I don't really know. I think a lot of it will be spiritual communicating. This is literally talking and communicating with people, not only within your own community, but from other continents. But not only that, but even potentially other planets. As far as UFO disclosure is concerned, maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. I really don't know, but I do feel we're going to move together. The people we are going to be meeting over this time, wow, it's going to be interesting. Probably good and bad, majority of it being bad. Nonetheless, it's all good as far as transitioning to the new age. As far as gods are concerned, I talked about how I'm expecting the gods to come into play. And I think that they're all going to be here at this time, whether they're here now or whether they're going to be born in 2010, born in 2011, 2012, 13. This is the time frame in which like all of humanity wants to be here, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime type of an event. That means all of the gods like Jesus, Krishna, Joseph Smith even, Moses, Horus, Attis, Zeus, Iris, Nostradamus, Einstein, Shakespeare, and Edgar Cayce, amongst just a few, to be back on this planet. And you noticed I said guys like Einstein and Edgar Cayce. Do you call them gods? They're more recent. And maybe some of these gods were here multiple times. Maybe Jesus was Horus before. Who knows? I'm just saying that it's the time where they're going to come back. If one person is on this planet was a major god in the previous time, they may not realize they were before. And people talk about the return of Christ from the religious religion of Christianity. The thing is, if someone was to come back and say, oh, by the way, I am Christ, I'm back, who the heck is going to believe that person? Only the gullible and only the ones who actually see it to be true. Meaning you can't expect people to believe it. But moving towards the end of this Mayan calendar period of time means that we move together. You're going to understand who these people are more. You might even understand a lot of your previous lives. At least that's what I think it's going to be happening anyway. Now, as far as some good stuff, I talk a lot about the stuff that I have, and it's pretty much a lot of bad predictions. I talk about, oh, the dollar's dying, the weather's getting worse, the healthcare collapse. That's pretty much the worst of the bunch. It's all bad. But the key thing is, I don't see that as bad. I look at the dollar dying. It needs to. We need to move into a system where we trade with the gratification currency, not a currency like we have now. I look at stuff like the healthcare collapse, where people get sick over and over. It wouldn't surprise me if 2009 or 2010 had a population reduction of around 10% because of this. And you might say, oh my, that's just devastating. Well, I look at that as a good thing, because people will realize, man, we can't live like this. We can't eat this kind of crap and expect that we're not going to be sick. So we get the realization of the bad stuff, and this would be part of the wake-up call. And I'm going to end this at that. As far as this whole gods thing, I'm not really expecting this towards the end part of the Mayan calendar. Might not happen until maybe the last 50 days or the last 100 days. This could be that next little cycle, meaning that the end of this current cycle and the start of the next one, the signs of this will be very minute and very, very small. And because of this, I'm expecting this to be very, very biblical times. When we look back in the future, 100 years from now, 500 years from now, 2,000 years from now, this will be the key times that we look at. It won't be 2,000 years ago or around the time of Christ's birth. I'm not going to say we're not going to look at that period. It's just this will become more relevant than that time frame there. Mainly from 2000 to 2025, but realistically, the months before Ascension and the months after Ascension, that will be the big time. So, thank you all for watching, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.